Welcome back to another video. I'm the Backyard Buddha, and in this video we're going to be talking about meditation. I'm going to give you the top 3 meditation tips that I wish I had when I first started meditating. That if I had these, if I could have integrated these, installed these in my mind, then it would have made the whole process of learning meditation and getting good at meditation, and what the hell that even means, much easier. It would save me so much like psychic pain, like mental frustration and pain. So here it is. Number 1, realizing what meditation is. Just understanding what it is helped me a lot. Granted, it kind of took a while to kind of piece together different understandings from different teachers, different books, etc. But the gist of it is essentially sandpapering away. It's essentially the sandpapering away of need, of worry, of anticipation, both for good things and bad things. Regret. It's the ability to let go of all these stories that we have just like playing, running, and just feel good, like in the moment, like right now, without having to have any stimulus like coming in. So for a long time, for instance, for a long time, I was like chain smoking cigarettes and drinking lots of alcohol. I was spending all of my time going to like open mics and stuff, or just distracting myself, trying to like numb the pain that I was experiencing, the emotional pain, the emotional suffering from stories. I got to do this thing. This hasn't happened yet. What if that happens? Stories. And all those stories, to one degree or another, eat up a certain amount of emotional bandwidth. They take up space in the mind. When that happens, I don't have that same level of emotional bandwidth to then deploy to things that really matter, things that are fun, things that are going to give back to me. Maybe it's working on the business. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's going for a walk. Or maybe it's just being present, being out of the head and just into the now. That's one huge, enormous benefit. Just the cessation of all stories. To just step outside the story. That's the main thing that trips us up. It's not that the thing is there, right? The emotion is there, the negative emotion, the negative thought, negative perception. It's that we get stuck to it. We identify with it. We buy into it. The analogy that Mooji, if you're familiar with that spiritual teacher, the analogy he uses is it's like sitting at a computer and seeing the username, password, and then logging in. You log into the story. You buy into it. You put your chips into the center of the table. And then that's where the suffering comes from, because then it's real. So understanding that meditation is the art, the practice of observing all of these emotions and thoughts and stories that are playing at any given moment. And by observing them, this is amazing. By observing them, you start to dissolve them. You start to disintegrate them. They begin unraveling. Because once you buy in, it's like you plug into a light socket. You power that story. You give it energy, and it keeps perpetuating and perpetuating and perpetuating. And this is actually a great thing, because inevitably, you're going to generate so much suffering that eventually, like too much tension on a bicycle wheel or something, it's going to break away from the axle, and then like the rubber is going to like come apart, and then the fucking aluminum thing is going to go bouncing off. So eventually the suffering is a catalyst for awakening, for stepping into presence, for stepping out of whatever the story is. Maybe it's heartbreak. Maybe this person didn't love you. Maybe this person's treating you unfairly. Maybe this thing hasn't arrived yet. Maybe you're a failure, you failed in the past. Like whatever the story is, the reason why it has power is we keep buying into it. Keep plugging in to the damn fucking wall socket. So one amazing thing with meditation, this is the first tip, the first just understanding. That's what was valuable for me, like really getting a solid understanding of this and going, oh fuck, okay, damn, that I get it now. I get why it's so powerful. I get it. I get it. And that understanding of how it works kind of takes a lot of pressure off. At least it did for me. Took a lot of the pressure off and made me get excited about it. Made me get more of a solid grasp on why I was acting the way I was acting, and still act the way I act. Knowing why that's happening, why that is. So having all the stories unravel. Not buying into them, instead just observing the story, observing the narrative. And by observing, simply by observing, they start unraveling. The stories start fading. And you actually begin to see things as they are. Take someone who has crippling social anxiety. They think everyone's judging them. Or on the opposite, that would be inferior, an inferior version of ego identification. But let's go the opposite way. Let's also say that they're like, take someone who's superior. I'm better than the people who these people think they are. So they might gravitate towards the judgy, aggressive personality versus the inferior, meek, don't take any risks, stay safe. These realities for both people are real. Yeah, who the fuck are these people? I'm so much better than these people. What if this happens? What if this happens? It never happens. Very rarely does it actually happen. It's all up here. It's all up here. And it creates this like a mental living hell. But it's so real in that world. Right? When I get triggered, it's so real. It's so real. To me. But if I could step outside that story, and when I do step outside that story, and when I've done that in the past, everything is very obvious. It's like, oh, feels good to be alive. It's a nice day, for example, taking this current environment. And just focusing on something that does feel good. Something that does instill feelings of appreciation, gratitude, excitement. Following the inspiration, following the fun. Instead of having all my emotional bandwidth be eaten up by this fucking story, by this narrative that's not even real. It's real up here because I'm keep plugging into it. So the first big tip is just understanding that whenever we sit down and start observing our thoughts and emotions and any perspectives that are running at the moment, instead of doing this and buying into it and locking into the story and just running around like this is the story, this is who I am, you start observing the pull, right? The agitation, the compulsiveness to like think about this and get into this and do this action and feel this way. And eventually, by observing it long enough, it starts unraveling. And then it's just you as the observer. Happy, present, good emotions, centered, balanced, grounded, not reactive. It's cool. And then that just deepens over time and more stories unravel. As a aside, to also go with point number 1, meditation is incredibly valuable when it comes to shifting limiting beliefs, doing shadow work, doing trauma work, diving into a particular memory and the emotional charge around that memory, and unearthing, identifying the different perspectives that we have, and then shifting them. Those perspectives, those stories, are really subtle subtle energies, right? Those thoughts have energy. There's energy behind them, and it's very subtle. So if you look at that wall, that's obvious. It's very obvious. Now, what if behind that wall there's a bunch of electrical wiring? To kind of grasp that, it's a little bit more subtle. Similarly, these different perspectives that we have, these different limiting beliefs that we have, sometimes it can be very, very challenging to try to pinpoint those. Trying to really dial in and like go, oh, that's what I'm believing. It can be really challenging sometimes. And what I've noticed is meditation, because the whole practice of meditation is we're observing the programs that are running and that are in play. So the more we do that, the better we get at sensing, grasping, pulling out of the darkness, out of the haze, the brain fog, the mental fog, the unconscious, subconscious, and then really getting a good look at it. And that's key. That's key. 90% of inner work, transformative work, is just like awareness, period. 90% of it, just being aware. But if we're buying into it, I could be like talking to that person who's like firmly bought into it. And if there's no awareness, it's just like a thick block of ice. Can't really, it's immovable, can't really chip, like we could try to chip our way inside, but very, very difficult. So meditation kind of loosens everything up and increases the chances that you nail that perspective and you can change it. So it makes shadow work so much easier, so much easier. Tip number 2 I would give to myself for starting out in meditation, and if you're just starting out in your meditation journey, I'd say the same for you. Simply sitting down is a win. Like simply sitting down to meditate, you've won. Simply being willing to have that conversation with yourself. To enter into that dynamic, to just observe. It's huge. Huge. How many people just don't meditate? Like, fuck that shit. Nah, that's just not for me. They maybe go on and have lots of drama, problems, challenges. They're very emotionally tilted, super wobbly, super reactive. Simply being able to sit down and meditate, it's a colossal victory. Colossal victory. And seeing it as a kind of like if you were to pick up a cobra in the jungle. Remember, I used to watch these cobra wranglers, snake wranglers, and they would like hold it, from the tail and hold it out. In this one particular episode, the guy got bit, and I think he lost a part of his finger, or a finger, which kind of sucks. Snake venom, very corrosive, very powerful. But they would hold him by the tail, and they would just observe. Right? The snake kind of wriggling around. Sometimes it'd be docile, sometimes it'd try to reach around and like bite or slither up the arm. So when you're sitting down, you're meditating. Number 2, second tip, it's a victory. Just sitting down is a victory. But while you're there, you could put this in tip 3, I guess. While you're there, you just want to observe the snake, right? You don't want to try to control the snake. You don't want to try to stop the flow of thoughts and emotions. You just want to sit and observe and just let them do their thing. And again, don't buy into them. Just let them do their thing. And notice the agitation, the compulsiveness, the pull to think about something. Be it something that's exciting or something that is stressful. Both of those. Be mindful. Now, following something that's pleasurable, something that's fun, it's definitely better than listening and buying into a negative story, for sure. And that's part of self-empowerment, following your excitement. It's one of like the the base fundamental teachings of empowerment. But for the purposes of meditation, you want to ignore, and not ignore, but you want to observe. Definitely not ignore, because that would be kind of potentially becoming unconscious, but observing, being aware of any pull, any compulsive need to do something, right? There should be a pause, a certain amount of deliberateness, carefulness, intention, purposefulness when it comes to following an action, taking an action, getting involved with a thought. And it should be done with a modicum of detachment, of recognizing that I'm not going to fully lose myself in this thought, because then that really increases the probability that I'm going to lose myself in the next thought, and the next thought, and the next thought, and then somewhere down the line, my ship might sink, might get capsized. It's going to turn into some negative story. But if we can hold that space of presence, awareness, observance, then it doesn't matter what stories are coming. It's a different game. It's a different game. It's no longer about following your excitement, following your bliss, following your passion, which is great. Really great. It's tapping into a different type of bliss, causeless bliss, a bliss that doesn't need any stimulus, right? If you're taking the route of self-empowerment, which is great, and both of these things should be done together, complementing, because they complement each other. You're following your excitement. It's like, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this. It's like this roller coaster, right? It's like this rushing river of different activities that are like fucking awesome and it's so exciting. It's like, whoa. But you're almost lost in the passion of it, which is dope. What I'm talking about here is not needing that. Like right here, like just this being a 10 out of 10 experience. Now, isn't that beautiful? Not needing any stimulus. Just sitting, feeling good, needing nothing. Not even needing thoughts. Not even having to manipulate thoughts, just the appreciation factor on everything just gets turned up. It's like the brightness of it turns up. It's like you start seeing shit in like 4K versus 480p. And then that just deepens more and more and more. This singular habit of meditation has like allowed me to do such fucking epic shit. Like stop smoking cigarettes, a habit that I struggled a long time with. Help with past traumas, past pain. Just being content with it. Being at peace with it. Forgiving certain people. Forgiving myself. No longer buying into the stories. It's not even a story anymore. It's not even a fucking, you know, it's not even a, like it doesn't even register anymore. Like what? Yeah, I guess that happened. It's allowed me to pinpoint my other limiting beliefs and tweak those until I'm ready to just kind of let go of that entire layer altogether. Taught me to be less reactive, less compulsive. I still got my moments. But over time, like everything gets better and better and better. Ability to appreciate life, be grateful, have fun. And not have fun, like engage in activity. I mean, that's also definitely increased, but enjoying, not even fun, but enjoying. Just basic shit. And because by doing this internal practice, we're clearing up more and more space in our mind. We're freeing up that emotional bandwidth talking about earlier. And that emotional currency that you now have, surplus, can be deployed towards other things, like your health, business, career, relationships. I found my creative ideas have skyrocketed because no longer coming from this place of need to get here, need to do this, need to do that. It's coming from a place of just feeling very peaceful, on the good days anyway. It's coming from a place of very peaceful. When I'm not buying into the existing current stories I still have. Always drink the tea bag, man. Always ends up happening. Or I'll fucking drink this, because I didn't know that it fell inside. Yeah. So meditation. If you haven't thought about doing it, I would highly, highly encourage doing it. And the best way that I found is, this works for me personally, meditating as soon as you get up. Like, don't check your phone. In fact, the night before, put your phone on airplane mode. When you wake up, there's no notifications there, which, like, when we first wake up and when we go to bed, those are the two most vulnerable times that we're in. And vulnerable meaning, like, when we first wake up, we're essentially like this blank slate. So then if we engage with stuff that's going to make us really reactive or like stimulus, we're not being intentional, we're not being purposeful about how we're feeling and the space and state our consciousness is in, right? We're immediately hooking into some story again. Or are we practicing being in a space, a state of observing the stories at play until they kind of dissipate? And then we're in a completely different state of being, moving throughout our day. Enjoying things way, way more, being less reactive, less stuck in our heads, less judgy of ourselves and other people in our reality. Just accepting it, like, this is dope, exactly as it is. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. Not in a bullshit kind of way either, like genuine, just at ease. This is good. And then from this place, you can then hook into different things that inspire you and excite you. Because now you're no longer resisting. Like, all this emotional bandwidth and mental capital isn't being like eaten up and like burned up, resisting where we're at and what's not here yet and what happened in the past, what might happen in the future. It's free. So how does that express itself? How does that uncontracted energy now express itself? Well, just joy, peace, contentment, but also great ideas, great realizations, great epiphanies. Oh, wow. Yeah. Didn't realize that about myself. Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. Wow. Things just like click into place. It's very effortless, very easy. So, airplane mode before you go to bed. When you wake up, there's no notifications. When we first wake up, when we first go to bed, when we first wake up, we're a clean slate, so we want to make sure that we're intentional and purposeful. When we're going to bed, we're tired. So we can easily spiral out into different stories, into, just kind of like zombie mode, just like watching shit. Versus being really intentional, like, okay, are we going to bed now? Are we not going to bed? How does this make me feel? Is this actually making me feel good? Is this making me feel stressed out? That, like, fine-tuning control starts kind of getting really shaky, really wobbly. It's harder to dial into that, to fine-tune your emotions and your awareness of emotions and thoughts and all that shit.